So I've hosted a lot of parties nationally. I've done a lot of parties in Vegas and California, all over, but Seattle's my home.
That was Amir Azer, key figure in Seattle nightlife, owner of Xtadium, philanthropist, and local dog guy. Welcome to the Iron Mind Podcast. Join me, Josh Brumley, as we explore the minds of those who've forged their paths through legal battles, business triumphs, and creative conquests. We uncover the stories behind their iron wills and innovative minds. Get ready for thought-provoking conversations, practical insights, and actionable advice. This is the Iron Mind Podcast. Hi, Amir. Thank you so much for joining us, bro. I'm so glad you made the trip down to Kent from Seattle. I appreciate you, bro. It's always a pleasure to see you.
I'm super hyped to be here.
Yeah, man.
With the best lawyer in town.
I love working with you. I love working with your friends, man. But I want to take some time today to discuss how you got started into being an entrepreneur and what shaped you to be one of the most, if not the most successful club owner in Seattle.
I started out just as a street promoter back in the 90s, doing posters and passing out free cassettes and CDs when they first came out, promoting artists. And then I did that for a while, and then me and my buddy started throwing parties, like house parties and things like that. Mm-hmm. And we'd sell, like, back then you'd sell, those red cups at the house parties and whatnot.
Like a kegger.
Yeah, like a kegger, whatnot. And then I learned that there was a business in that. I decided to rent out a big warehouse and do my first 18th birthday party, and invited everybody I knew, and ended up 2,000 people showed up to my first birthday party.
That's awesome.
And it was just a big rager. Didn't make no money off of it. It costed me a ton of money to throw the party. I actually made like $300 off the party, and we lost one of the lights and ended up having to pay the $300 for the light. So it was pretty much a wash. But a week after that, I got a call from one of the most popular clubs in Seattle at that time. And they asked me if I'd like to just come and promote for them. And they'd give me $10 a person for everybody that showed up.
All right.
And I did the math, and I was like, $10 a person? I was like, Jesus, I just had 2,000 people
show up to your party, yeah.
So maybe it would be lucrative if I start doing this. Started doing that. I was doing it week after week, showing up. Every week I was making tons of money. And actually at that time, my family was really bad and doing bad financially. Mm-hmm. And I remember going home and telling my mom and being so excited about actually making money legitimately.
Yeah.
And after a while.
And you were like 18?
Yeah, I was 18 at the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I did that for, I'd say, about a year, just working for other people, promoting their venues. And then I just told my dad and my family about it, that, hey, maybe, I'd like to start our own. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started my own 18 over nightclub back then. And it did pretty well. I had little bumps and things like that, a lot of learning curves.
Sure.
I learned a lot from it. But after I did that for I'd say I did the 18 over thing for about a few years. Mm-hmm. Then I thought to myself, why not get into doing it for the adults, 21 and overs?
So what was it about Seattle that made you want to keep it in the hometown? Like, you didn't want to go to LA or do anything anywhere else? It was just, this was your community. You wanted to give back here and do parties here with your friends?
I did do parties. I've done parties nationally. So I've hosted a lot of parties nationally. I've done a lot of parties in Vegas and California, all over. But Seattle's my home. Seattle's where my heart's at. Yeah. And I just knew that Seattle was missing entertainment, and still till this day, I still feel like I have a big part of Seattle's, a duty to do for Seattle for entertainment. It's like my duty to stay here and make sure that my city stays fun.
So After you started this 21 and up club, how did that progress into Xtadium?
So I did a lot of other clubs managing. I worked with one of my actual mentors was David Tran. I worked for him for quite a bit of time, doing his running his promotion, doing his clubs, which were Venom, Amber, and Cowgirls at the time. And I got into wanting, get back into doing my own thing again. And I started doing iMusic and TLUs. I teamed up with some people and had a lot of learning curves, learned a lot of things that, could go wrong and did go wrong.
Yeah.
So I took all that as a learning lesson and I drew up my own business plan by myself. One night I was just at home, and thinking to myself, I know a lot of athletes and I know a lot of people that want to party. How do I bring those two things, sports and entertainment, together? And I came up with this idea at home. I was just sitting there coming up with names, brainstorming with Anna and just bouncing back with Anna. Me and Anna were just sitting in a room bouncing back ideas and just came up with the name Xtadium. And I thought it fits so perfectly into the business plan that we actually had, which was having a sports bar that converts into a party lounge.
Yeah, yeah. And a place where athletes can come hang out and
during the day, watch the game. Their families could come out, watch the game. And at night, we just converted into a full-on party place.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. That's a great name for it. And that's, so did you come up with it or was it Anna's idea?
We both.
Come on. Both of you at the same time. Okay, sure.
No, I had came up with the name Xtadium.
Oh.
So, but
she put the X in it.
Yeah, but we wanted to come up with a brand that could be trademarked and that we actually owned.
Yeah.
So with Xtadium, it's actually trademarked and owned by me. So it's not something
better.
It's a lot better. And when you go, when you go on searches and Google, when you put it, it's easier to find.
What kind of challenges did you face when you were starting this business? Like if someone who's a young promoter just getting into this this world of doing this as a career, we've had a lot of young YouTube personalities, the Alki Beach Kickback and Kidsties and all that. Those are people that, that's the next generation of people running the nightlife in Seattle. So what do you have to say to those young people that might be listening to this?
I think the easier answer would be, what challenges have I not faced?
Okay.
Because being in the entertainment industry, you're gonna run into a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles. And those are the things that will, actually mold you into who you are, your character, your business ideals will all come from your mistakes and all the turbulence you will deal with in the entertainment industry.
The pressure makes the diamonds.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Kidsties, and his
Alki Beach Kickback. Yeah,
he got in a lot of trouble for things like that.
Yeah.
So you do got to watch. This industry seems really easy. Like I've had a situation where I had Lil Wayne, for instance, right? And it sounded like a great idea to have Lil Wayne at my venue that fit 1,500 people, and for him to post it on his social media that he was going to be at my venue, and then all of a sudden you got 6,000 people outside.
Yeah.
And the venue fits 1,500 people, and now you got to address those problems also. So I've learned a lot from that. How to target my audience, what not to do, when to turn down the dial.
Yeah.
Especially with Xtadium, I've turned down my dial a lot just because of the size of Xtadium versus my last venue. It's, you can't just go as hard as you want all the time. And there's going to be things like that will make it really rocky for you.
Do you have any plans for events that in the future you want to discuss right now? Like we behind the camera here before we started, we talked about your Thanksgiving event. Can you tell everybody about that and the types of cool things you're doing outside of just promoting nightlife?
Yeah, my community outreach and giving back to people and animals is really what drives me to doing what I do. You know, it wakes me up in the morning and gives me my drive. I love helping people. I love helping animals. I've been doing it ever since back in 2000. I started just, helping people out, giving back, and using my platform to do that.
Yeah. So tell us about this Thanksgiving event.
So Thanksgiving, what we do is instead of like what other people do is where they'll invite them, homeless or needy people into a park and make them sit outside. We open up our doors and we let people come inside, sit down. We try to treat them like family, and it's not just for home; it's for everybody, right? People that don't have people. And it's been very successful throughout the years. They'll come there, get a hot plate. We have a free store set up, so if they need anything from coats, socks, any gloves, blankets, tarps, shoes, we have it all there for them.
Is there anything that people can do to be involved with that Thanksgiving event every year?
Yeah, there's no pressure. We just, whoever wants to be involved is more than welcome with open arms to be involved. That's why I started it. It's to make it a community thing. It's not about, Amir's just giving back. It's about us giving back as a community.
So if people want to donate supplies or donate money or come volunteer, how do they get a hold of you?
One thing I've never asked for is money.
Yeah.
That's one thing I never have asked for. It's about the presence of that person or, going out and them actually getting something so they feel that much more involved. Signing a check, it's way too easy.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I talk about that a lot with the nonprofit service that my firm does, and we actually give all of our staff 40 hours of paid time off just to do nonprofit service.
That's awesome.
Because I think it's easy for a law firm to write a check, but we have this very important knowledge of the law, and we have this duty to provide that knowledge to people who need it.
Right.
And money doesn't do that.
No.
And so I ask my staff, especially the paralegals, to come volunteer at clinics with me, and anyone else at my office has the opportunity to go give back to a charity that they like to give back to and get paid for that time. And I
awesome.
think that service is so much more important because these organizations can't exist without people to fill the chairs that serve the needy people that they're serving. So thank you for doing that, man. That's huge. We're so in sync, right? Like two dog guys that just love running businesses and giving back to the city.
And I love the people, man. It's about the people, man.
What other nonprofit stuff have you done besides the Thanksgiving event?
So I do Winterfest. I put on the carnivals for my old neighborhoods where we'll bring bouncy houses and we'll create a whole carnival with rides and with games with prizes, and I try to make it a fun thing versus a give back thing. Myself growing up poor, I remember standing in the line for Salvation Army and just feeling really poor. It's not uplifting. So growing up, I was always like, what am I going to create to uplift people, versus making them feel like the needy. Right. So even at my carnivals, I got Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman, all these guys, they all reach out to me to give me a ton of stuff. We all put our stuff, together, and we'll build a store in the back where families are just able to go back there while the carnival's going on and get free new Nikes, makeup. And I'm not talking, one thing about me is I never give things to people that I don't want myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go in my closet or cabinets and grab some canned food and say, here, I'm looking out for my community. No, I go buy things that I want, Nikes, or things that the kids actually want. Because one of the stories I'll tell you is I stood in a line for Salvation Army for 2 hours, and God bless them, but I ended up just getting a dictionary.
Oh, no.
And, as an 11-year-old kid, the disappointment was very heavy. And actually, that disappointment is some of the drive that, drives my events now.
That's a really interesting story, man. What happened after you got that dictionary? What was that day like? Did you keep the dictionary?
I
Do you
kept
think
it.
about that dictionary a
Yeah,
lot?
I kept it for that dictionary. I actually kept it for a long time, and it came with a thesaurus. So
double pack,
double
man.
pack.
All
So
right.
I used to use those, for like coming up with ideas. I'd flip to a page, point at the page,
Yeah.
and come up with names or ideas
Yeah,
off
yeah.
of them. But yeah,
That's an origin story, man. That's a big moment.
But that dictionary and that thesaurus did a lot for me. We also do. I just did one in Kent at the YMCA. It's a 3-on-3 tournament where the kids come out. They battle it out. They win trophies. They win cash. There's no registration fee. We had companies like Infuse, Richard Sherman's Blanket Foundation. We had On the Mark doing haircuts. We had a bunch of barbers come out and do haircuts for back to school. Richard Sherman gave away, I believe, around 1,000 backpacks, fully equipped.
Damn.
I mean, tons of. We worked with Glover and Power Movement to do that. It was awesome because it was about, I believe, almost 1,500 people showed up to the event. We had vendors coming out like Mo Vegan. We had a bunch of different food vendors. All the food was free. It was a lot of fun. You could just see the enjoyment in kids' eyes. Primitive Skateboard gave out free skateboards.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
We gave out free basketballs, free footballs, things to keep kids entertained outside.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned some of the Seattle Seahawks superstars that you've worked with. How do you think these connections like Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman, how have they impacted your work? You talked about them being involved with these giving back, and they're involved with Xtadium, right? Like how do people make those connections or build those connections? Like how did you meet those guys?
It was genuine. I met Marshawn about when he first came to Seattle. At first, we both just, we'd be in the same room all the time together, never say hello to each other.
Yeah.
But eventually, he just, one day we just clicked, and just keeping it genuine. That's my thing. I treat Marshawn how I would treat you.
Yeah.
Or I would treat anybody else. Everybody to me, whether you're a celebrity or just homeless on the street, you hold the same value to me. And I think a lot of people see that in me, that I don't just make them my friends because they're famous, and
right.
Famous people like that. They want just, genuine relationships. They're just people like us. Everybody,
puts them on a pedestal and they get treated differently, and that makes people feel weird.
They're gonna make the same mistakes as a regular person. They're gonna, they cry like regular people. They have the same kind of regular lives as anybody. They want true friendships. They want true connections.
Yeah.
Some of my friends are the most famous antisocial people in the world, right? But the genuine connection I have with them makes them open up to me.
Yeah.
For instance, right?
Yeah. So if you're talking to a young promoter, young entrepreneur, then some of the skills that they should be working on developing is building genuine relationships.
Right.
Building those genuine relationships, not because that person is famous, but just because there's a genuine relationship with anyone that they'd like to build.
Yeah, people love that, it's, I've had the same phone number, for instance, for 25 years.
Love it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's people, you've got to be the kind of person that people want to be like, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, nobody wants to be friends with some person that's not genuine or not nice. That's
just ask them for things. Yeah.
Me, myself, I've never asked anybody for anything. Any of the celebrities or anybody that's ever actually helped out with any of my fundraiser foundation things, they genuinely reached out to me and asked me, hey, can I be involved? Right.
Yeah.
It's I don't like making people feel like, I'm using them or I need them for a purpose.
Right.
It's just being 100 with them.
I love it, man. I love it. And that's so apparent in my interactions with you. And I just value that so much with being in the same room with you, man. It's very apparent to everybody who interacts with you.
Appreciate that, brother.
What is one of the most memorable celebrity events that you've hosted or appearances that you've hosted at Xtadium? You talked about Lil Wayne, 6,000 people outside the venue.
That was actually high music, but
Yeah.
I would say at Xtadium, it would be hosting some of Beast Mode's events for him. You know, those were really fun. Having an ice sculpture of Marshawn Lynch
What?
and him walking into just looking at an ice sculpture of himself. That was pretty amazing. Working with Primitive, doing some of their events. I mean, we've had all types of cool people. We just had Sway Lee pop in. We've had Tory Lanez. We've had every basketball player, football player. And I feel like it's a place to build relationships, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's not just building a relationship with me, but building a relationship with other people, right? So Xtadium is, I'd say that's probably my funnest moment was watching Marshawn Lynch walk into him looking at an ice sculpture of himself.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I would say that was probably one of the coolest moments I've had.
I can also say that every time I've gone to Xtadium, I don't go in there with the intentions of like networking, but every circle of people that I'm in, there's some new person and I get to know them and they become some of my closest friends, man. These are genuine connections that are being built at a nightclub. And that's not a common thing.
If you just saw last week, David Benavidez, just him and his wife actually met at Xtadium.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
instance.
man.
And they just did a video about how they met at Xtadium. They came out, shot the whole video. It's really
beautiful.
Cool. And it's not
story.
just them that met, but so many marriages, so many relationships, you know, and so many business connections that have been made there.
Absolutely. What is the best way that you've learned to balance hosting high-profile events and then also having a space that's welcoming for everybody, right? Like you have the celebrities and those events maybe are going to be a little bit more closed or a little bit more exclusive, but how do you balance that with still having such a popular place and welcoming everybody from the city?
I did a thing called, actually at Xtadium, I don't charge no cover charge, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So automatically when that door experience to walking in, it's a real warm feeling when you come to Xtadium. It's almost like going home.
Yeah.
Right? You feel like you're at home, right?
Yeah.
So it's the celebrity events that we, you know, have closed doors to like just a public event. I mean, they're both to me just as significant as each other, right?
Yeah.
So like for the regular everyday weekend, I do that 200 times a year, right? It's a lot of work having to be open Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. And, you know, it takes a lot of marketing, a lot of connections, a lot of help from the community. And we've been very successful at doing that and making that connection, that one-on-one connection with everybody that walks in the door, from me greeting people at the door to actually hanging out with all my guests, and me showing up almost every week when I'm in town. Almost every day I'm there.
Yeah, man, you've been there every time I've been there. And it's, you know, it's remarkable.
People, when they walk through that door, you know, they want to see me and my staff. You know, we make it like we're the family, and they're there just visiting, you know, family almost.
Yeah. It makes it feel very warm and welcoming to know someone who's there when you walk in the doors.
Right.
You know, you don't have to feel that uncomfortable feeling of going into like a party where you're like, I don't really know if I'm going to know anybody here. It might be awkward and uncomfortable. And people, I think, are really reluctant to try new things because of that feeling.
I have meetings with my staff about that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I just had a meeting with my staff about like, you know, when somebody comes to Xtadium, for instance, right? Me and them, we walk in there every day, right? But for instance, somebody just turned 21. They're walking through the doors. This is the
first time.
First time. This is the first time they've even been out, right? So it's our duty, right, in hospitality to make it feel like home, like you're walking into your cousin's house, right? Or your auntie's house or your uncle's house. So what we try to do is we try to be as informative from where's the bathroom, where's this, how do I do this, how does table side service work, or how do you reserve a booth? Some people don't even know how to reserve a booth. Like they've never been to a place like that. They don't know how it works. So we try to be as welcoming and friendly as possible. I hire the most friendliest people.
Honestly, it's very apparent. Like I've been to a lot of different bars. You and I, we both don't drink.
Right.
So waiting in a long bar line to get my damn soda water and have the person who's waiting on me be disrespectful or annoyed that I'm paying for a soda water, like I don't want to even deal with that, right? I've never had that happen at your place, and I've had it happen at countless other bars in Seattle. And that's why I just don't go to those places, and it makes people not want to go enjoy nightlife to be treated that way.
I feel like what happens in that situation, they're doing it for the money.
Yeah.
Me and my staff, we're doing it for the people.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to show, right?
Yeah.
I don't show up to Xtadium for the money. I show up to make sure there's a safe environment, a fun environment, a welcoming environment, and I make sure that my staff treat my home and their home just the same, right? So when you walk in there, if you go to the bar and you want a water, it's not, here's your water, it's, here you go, here's your water, because to us, it's not about the money.
Right.
Money's going to come. We're going to make, money regardless, right? As long as people come, you're gonna make money.
And if people enjoy themselves, they're gonna keep coming.
Like you, for instance, you drink water, right? But hey, your friends don't, right?
Yeah.
So making sure you have the same experience as them is very important to me.
Yeah.
Because you just coming and spreading the word that I had a great time at Xtadium. It's what has kept Xtadium successful throughout all of these years. You've seen all these lounges and clubs come and go, but tons.
Like a year and they'll be gone. Man.
Right. But we treat it differently, and that's why we've had the success we do have.
So you mentioned the client experience is really important to you. It's super important to me as an attorney, as a business owner as well. And I think more people should focus on the client experience instead of on how do I make the most money. Because the people are what keep the business going. And if the people are happy, you're never going to run out of business.
Right. Like nobody wants to go to some lawyer that's just feels like, oh, my attorney's just trying to make money off of me.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that.
No, you have to build these genuine relationships and get to know the people that you're serving and find out what matters to them. And in your industry, in the nightlife industry, it's that friendly communication that is like non-existent in most of the bars in Seattle. And I think that that's something that a lot of attorneys should focus on as well. Building that friendly client experience in a way that it doesn't matter how busy we are.
Right.
If someone is calling us and they have a need, we need to fill it.
It's like when I met you, right? I mean, I've worked with a ton of attorneys, right? I didn't even know you were an attorney at first. And then just talking to you and the way you were, the hospitality, the way you were just such a friendly person. And then finding out that you're an attorney, made me into a client, right?
It did. And we've talked a lot since then. And I'm happy to be working with anybody that you send my way. And you know that they're going to be treated like a friend of the family. Man.
Right. And I've already sent you somebody, and I've already felt that welcoming feeling. And, it's great to know that I'm putting somebody in somebody's hand that is going to treat them that well.
Yeah. Thank you. It means a lot to me. And it's really hard, and I'm sure you've dealt with this as being, the head guy at your place. It's hard to find people who are going to execute that vision, right? Because if we could clone ourselves, it'd be easy. We don't have to even communicate about it. We see the value. We've seen it work. We know that with more people doing this thing that we're trying to describe, focusing on that client experience or customer experience, you're going to see those results. But how do you find staff? How do you find people that are like-minded? What's your interview process like? How do people who have these values get into Xtadium or into a law profession where they can help make people's lives better?
I feel like we use a recruiting tactic versus just a hiring tactic. right? Just like an MBA recruiter would, right? You look for the best qualities in these people, right? For me, I barely will look at your resume.
Yeah.
It's not just about your resume. It's about who you are as a person.
Right.
Because I could teach you.
Exactly.
I could teach you everything, right? But I can't teach you to be a good person.
I can't change your personality at all. No.
So that's what I look for. It's, what kind of personality do you have? Are you a happy, fun-going, helpful person? In hospitality, you have to be a happy, fun-going, helpful person.
Yeah.
Or don't be in hospitality.
Right.
Look at the name, hospitality.
Yeah,
you have to be hospitable,
yeah,
to be in hospitality. So if you don't have those naturally, then it's just not for you.
And that's okay. There's
And
something
okay.
else. But
there's tons of other industries for you to be in, but being in hospitality, it's, you got to come with a certain, and that's what we do. We recruit. We look for those people that are fun and happy, helpful people.
Do you have a hard time finding those people? Do you think it's like a constant search, or are you like, no, I've been very successful just hiring? And talk about that. Like,
there's going to be, just like in any industry, there's going to be a lot of hit and misses.
Yeah.
Throughout, in any year, we're going to go through a ton of new employees.
Sure.
And some of them are going to stay long term, and some are going to be just short term, right? So it might not be for everybody, right? So you'll learn that really quickly in our industry if it is or if it isn't for that person. Yeah. Especially like with a place like Xtadium, right? If you're not a friend, the staff will point you out. Yeah. I don't need to point you out. The staff will be like, hey,
they're not meeting our values.
They don't meet our values, you know? They're just not helping the clients like how we all do, because each person there is a reflection on all of us as a team. It's just like a football team, a basketball team, right?
A law firm team.
Right, or a law firm team, right? Yeah. One person could affect the whole team. Yeah. And, we could
change the culture in the business, change how
having
your
a
reputation.
Bad attitude.
Yeah, man.
It gives a bad taste to some customers.
It's toxic.
And then it makes them think that, hey, all the employees are like that and whatnot.
Then rumors about the business not being that fun. People are mean there. Yeah.
So we try to focus in on that. And it's our staff, we work as a team. It's not about me or I. I have a whole team of people. They're great people. And they click together. I mean, my team at Xtadium, I'm not going to say my first venues or my second venue or my third venue had the same experience as Xtadium does, right? It was a lot of learning, a lot of silent wars, the art of war, right? Yeah. There's a lot of wars that are being fought in the background. I'm learning. And I think throughout all the years, I learned how to treat my employees, how to hire management that can treat the employees with respect. Yeah. Right?
Another thing that a lot of industries are lacking.
Right, especially in hospitality. You got these managers yelling at people, screaming to get their ways. Yeah. And I learned in business, you don't need to scream or yell at people to get your way. You could explain it to them in a nice way. And if they don't understand, or if they're just not fitting in, keep trying. And then once you've tried enough, then it might be
the end of the relationship.
Of an end of a relationship with those people,
Yeah.
And that's all done for the customers, because at the end of the day, we're doing this for the customers. Exactly. Because without the customers, there would be no Xtadium.
I talk about that a lot in my business as well. I think that it's tough to terminate someone, right?
Right.
But I have a duty to the business and to the people who are performing to take that action, right, and to not let things fester, and to not let things get really toxic or bubble into like their work, that they're portraying my business as a negative place.
Right.
And so it's always really difficult to terminate someone.
You know what I say, Josh?
What?
Whenever I always say, I don't terminate people; they terminate themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a different way of saying that one of the people at my office says. I'm gonna just not even say it because it's maybe not as polite. But the trash takes itself out. You already knew. You already knew the trash takes itself out.
Right.
Yeah. It's really important that if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build a business and you're trying to build a brand and you're aware of what those values need to be, don't hire people and don't keep people who don't illustrate those values.
Yeah, because it's like this, right? You take an apple, right? That's, what is it? A sour apple.
Like a rotting
rotten
apple.
apple, right? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
a rotten apple. You take
Yeah.
a rotten apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you put it in a box with other apples. It's gonna rot out the other apples.
Yeah, it's toxic.
It's toxic.
Man,
You've got to weed out the rot. You got to make it to where everybody's on the same page. And if it's not like that, then you're going to have a toxic work environment.
Yeah.
And especially in hospitality, people think it's a game. They think it's for fun.
No.
It's not for fun. Yes, it's fun for people, the customers that come.
But it's work for you.
For me and my staff, it's work.
Yeah.
People always ask me, are you having fun? Yeah, I'm having fun, but at the same time, I'm at work, right? They're like, have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, I don't drink or
Yeah.
do drugs or things like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there's a real purpose behind why I don't do those things too. It's like there's a certain amount of focus you got to have. Working in a bar doesn't mean you get drunk.
Yeah.
I've had some staff
that think that way.
That way, right?
Yeah.
And they'll find out really quick that it doesn't work like that, and they'll be terminated immediately,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We actually have a breathalyzer at work, right?
Oh my God.
So,
it just probably happens a lot.
Yeah,
huh?
because the culture, there's a lot of people in the industry that feel like that's a part of the culture, to drink with the staff. I mean, I've had partners that used to just get wasted, and that's why obviously I don't have partners anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they used to party with the people.
Mm.
And, a lot of people be like, hey, let's go to an after party, for instance. And,
Yeah.
I'm like,
2 a.m.
2
going out.
a.m.
No way.
No way. I'm going home to my dogs.
My dogs are at home. I gotta get home.
I got to get home. I got responsibilities. I got to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, this is work.
This is work to me. And actually, I got to wake up and create a whole nother party tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not just about today. And so, yeah, it's, especially in the nightlife industry, people mistake it as just a big party and all the employees are just drinking and partying, and no, it doesn't work like that. We're there for your entertainment.
Do you think that the future of nightlife is going to involve robotics and these, we've got now, it's sort of a goofy little joke thing, but those little server robots that go out at restaurants. Do you think the future of nightlife is going to have those Tesla Optimus robots serving drinks?
That's a good question, actually. And I talk about that all the time. I think, honestly, the robotics is already there right now, for instance, right? I could just have a robot pouring shots out. And honestly, I feel like in hospitality, what I'm doing in the industry that I am, the people are what make the business.
Yeah.
My staff is what makes Xtadium so great. A robot named Bill or Eddie is not gonna, from Tesla, is not gonna sit there and pour a drink and give that same feeling that an actual person and the tentativeness of a person, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that, yes, we will use technology to our advantage in some ways, but it's not just going to eliminate the people.
Right.
Especially not in my industry, for instance.
Not in your business.
Yeah, maybe at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You pull up to a drive-through, your burger, boom, 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 boom.
Or maybe other bars where they don't care about that personal touch, that feeling. Yeah.
And that's why those places won't, they don't stick around for that long, or they won't make it through something like COVID.
Yeah.
You saw Xtadium survive COVID.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
It's called adaptability, right? Human adaptability, right?
What projects or expansions are in the future for Xtadium? Tell us a little bit about 2025 and beyond.
Right now, we're just building our foundation. We're building a proof of concept. Mm-hmm. So just showing that, hey, this works. Sports bar that could convert into a nightlife and expand and franchising off,
Oh, wow, man. All right.
But, I always tell people, before you take the next step, be ready for that next step, especially for young entrepreneurs, everybody has all these ideas, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm like one of those horses, right? That has those
The
blinders
blinders
on, you know.
yeah.
My focus is what I'm working on right now. It's this step is the most important step, right? The future, like we could speak about it all right now, but tomorrow, today, tonight is important to me, right?
Right.
That's what's going to build my future. But expanding Xtadium into other cities, you know, building bigger ones and expanding into Seattle
Yeah.
and doing something even more, you know,
What?
outlandish and bigger.
Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Seattle's, you know, it's starting to bubble. Of course, we're in a very liberal city, and you know, there's a lot of rules and legislation you got to follow by. But I feel like throughout all these years, I've learned all that and made a great relationship with the city. And that's going to help on expanding and making something a lot bigger. You know, building that trust with the city, especially if you want to open up a venue that fits 2,000 to 3,000 people, right?
Yeah.
And that's my.
That's the maybe the next step, huh?
We'll see. You know,
We'll see.
if
We'll see.
God willing, you know.
What's the first city you'd like to open outside of Seattle?
Outside of Seattle, San Diego.
San Diego. Why
I
is
love
that?
San Diego.
Yeah.
And then I love LA, and then you know, Florida. Obviously, I love Florida. You know, Miami. I love Miami. There's Texas. You know, but there's a lot of places. But first and foremost is Seattle. Just building my city, man. I just want to build a lot of fun things to do here. I want to make the day and night life more entertaining and more welcoming.
Yeah. Well, we love having you as a key member of our city, man. We love everything that you're doing. I really appreciate you as a person, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you as a lawyer.
All right.